The cold steel handcuffs clicked around my wrists as I searched the crowd for one person, my husband, Ryan Carter. He stood just a few feet away, not looking frightened or confused. Instead, there was a strange calmness on his face. Beside him stood his mother, Patricia Carter, wearing the faintest smile. "Ryan!" I cried. "Tell them I'm innocent!" He lowered his eyes and said nothing. That was the moment I realized my marriage had been nothing more than a carefully planned trap. 3 months earlier. My name is Emily Parker, and I lived in Chicago, Illinois, where I worked as the finance director for a growing technology company. For 4 years, I believed I had the perfect life. I loved my husband, trusted him completely, and dreamed about starting a family together. There was only one problem: his mother. Patricia had never accepted me. "Ryan deserves someone from a better family," she often said. I ignored every insult because I wanted to keep the peace. One evening, Ryan came home with exciting news. "My mom wants us to invest in the family business. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." After reviewing the financial records, I shook my head. The numbers don't make sense. It's too risky. For the first time in our marriage, Ryan became angry. "You always think my mother is wrong." I stayed quiet. A week later, our company announced a surprise financial audit. The following morning, 2 FBI agents walked into my office. "Emily Parker?" "Yes." "You are under investigation for embezzling $850,000 from your employer." My coffee slipped from my hand. "What? That's impossible." They placed bank records on my desk. Every transfer carried my digital signature, my username, my password. Everything pointed directly at me. That evening, I rushed home in tears. "Ryan, someone framed me." He barely looked at me. "If you're innocent, you have nothing to worry about." His words felt colder than ice. The next morning, FBI agents arrived at our house. Neighbors watched through their windows as I was handcuffed. Before getting into the police vehicle, I looked back one last time. Ryan and Patricia exchanged a smile. That was when I knew. This wasn't bad luck. It was a plan, and I was the victim. The first few weeks inside the Cook County Detention Center felt like a nightmare that refused to end. Every morning I woke up hoping someone would walk into my cell and tell me there had been a mistake. No one ever did. The media had already labeled me the $1,000,000 executive thief. My employer suspended me, my bank accounts were frozen, and friends who once called me family stopped answering my messages. The only person who still believed in me was my defense attorney, David Harris. One afternoon, David sat across from me in the visitation room with a thick folder under his arm. "I found something," he said quietly. My heart raced. "What is it?" "The FBI proved someone logged into your company account from your home internet connection." I frowned. "But I was at work that day." "I know." He slid a document across the table. "The login happened at 2:17 p.m. Security footage from your office shows you were leading a budget meeting at exactly the same time." I stared at the paper. "So someone was in my house." David nodded. "And only one other person had access to your laptop." My hands began to shake. Ryan. Suddenly, I remembered something I had completely forgotten. 2 months earlier, Ryan had insisted on upgrading my laptop. "It's running slow," he had said with a smile. "I'll install some new security software." Without thinking, I had given him every password he needed. I had trusted my husband. That trust had become the weapon used against me. A few days later, David returned with even more disturbing news. I started looking into Ryan's finances. "What did you find?" 3 days after your arrest, he paid cash for a luxury home in Naperville, Illinois. I looked at him in disbelief. Ryan could never afford that. Exactly. David opened another file. There's more. Several large wire transfers had moved through a shell company registered in Delaware before ending up in accounts connected to Patricia Carter. The money trail was becoming impossible to ignore. Someone had stolen the $850,000, and someone was already spending it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every memory of my marriage suddenly looked different. Ryan encouraging me to use online banking, Ryan asking for my passwords, Ryan insisting we combine our finances, Ryan convincing me to let him help with my work laptop. None of it had been an act of love. It had been preparation. A week later, something unexpected happened. A correctional officer quietly approached my cell. "I shouldn't be doing this," she whispered, sliding a sealed envelope through the bars. It was delivered anonymously. Inside was a small flash drive and a handwritten note. "If you want the truth, watch this." The next morning, David brought a laptop into the attorney meeting room. As the video began playing, my heart nearly stopped. It was footage from the security camera in my living room. Ryan and Patricia were sitting on the couch. Patricia leaned forward and smiled. "Once Emily goes to prison, everything she owns will become yours." Ryan laughed. "She'll never figure out I copied her passwords months ago." I covered my mouth. Tears filled my eyes. There it was, the confession I had been praying for. But just as Ryan started explaining how they'd moved the money, the recording suddenly cut off. David sighed. "This helps us, but it isn't enough." "What do you mean?" "The defense can claim the video was edited or taken out of context. We need evidence that no jury can question." I nodded slowly. For the first time since my arrest, I wasn't afraid anymore. I was angry. If Ryan and Patricia believed they had destroyed my life, they had made one fatal mistake. They underestimated how far I was willing to go to expose the truth. 3 weeks later, I was released on bail. The moment I stepped outside the courthouse, camera flashes exploded in my face. "Emily, did you steal the money? Are you guilty? Did your company fire you?" I didn't answer a single question. This time, I wasn't interested in defending myself. I was focused on proving the truth. Over the next month, my attorney, David Harris, worked day and night with a team of digital forensic experts. Then one afternoon, my phone rang. "Emily," David said, unable to hide his excitement, "we got them." "What happened?" "The forensic team recovered deleted files from your laptop." "What did they find?" "They found remote access software Ryan secretly installed months before your arrest. It recorded every password you typed and gave him complete control of your computer." I closed my eyes. Everything finally made sense. But David wasn't finished. The FBI also traced the missing $850,000. Where did it go? It moved through 3 fake companies before ending up in bank accounts owned by Ryan Carter and Patricia Carter. For the first time in months, I smiled. The trial began 2 weeks later in a federal courtroom in Chicago. The courtroom was packed with reporters. Everyone expected another guilty verdict. Instead, they witnessed the truth. David presented the company's security footage showing that I was leading a budget meeting at the exact moment the fraudulent transfers were made. Then the FBI cybercrime expert explained how my laptop had been remotely accessed from my home. Finally, the financial investigators displayed the complete trail of the stolen money. Every transfer, every account, every dollar led directly to Ryan Carter and Patricia Carter. The courtroom fell silent. The prosecutor turned toward Ryan. "Mr. Carter, would you like to explain why stolen company funds ended up in your accounts?" Ryan's face turned pale. He looked toward his mother. Patricia slowly shook her head. For several long seconds, no one spoke. Then Ryan broke. His shoulders collapsed. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "It was my idea to copy Emily's passwords, but my mother convinced me we could take the money and make Emily look guilty." Patricia jumped to her feet. "Don't listen to him. He's lying." But it was too late. The bank records, the forensic evidence, the security footage, and Ryan's confession all told the same story. Later that afternoon, the judge delivered the verdict. Emily Parker is found completely innocent of all charges. A tear rolled down my cheek. After months of humiliation, fear, and betrayal, my name had finally been cleared. The judge then turned to Ryan and Patricia. Both were found guilty of wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, and framing an innocent person. Federal agents immediately placed them in handcuffs. As Ryan walked past me, tears filled his eyes. "Emily, please forgive me." I looked at him calmly. "You didn't just betray your wife. You destroyed the only person who truly loved you." Then I turned and walked away without looking back. 6 months later, my former employer publicly apologized and reinstated me as the company's chief financial officer. The company also paid a substantial financial settlement for the damage caused to my reputation. Instead of spending the money on myself, I founded the Parker Justice Foundation, a nonprofit organization that provides legal assistance to people who have been falsely accused of crimes. One afternoon, while standing in my new office overlooking downtown Chicago, I received one final letter. It was from Ryan. I never opened it. Some chapters are better left closed. As I dropped the envelope into the trash, I smiled, because I had learned the greatest lesson of my life. Revenge doesn't always come from destroying the people who hurt you. Sometimes the greatest revenge is rebuilding your life so completely that they become nothing more than a painful memory.